Thank you, everyone, for being here. One UGA alum. To my left here, I want to introduce my colleagues. To my right, Councilmember Andrea Boone. To my left, we have Dustin Hillis, and we have Jason Dozier, and that constitutes a quorum for our committee. All of you should have gotten an email and have poured over our agenda, and so will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda. We have a motion to adopt by Councilmember Dozier and second by Hillis. Can you please open the vote, Mr. Johnson?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The agenda has been adopted.
Thank you. And also, we need to approve the minutes for today. I'll entertain a motion for that. Got a motion by Dozier, second by Hillis. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The minutes have been approved.
Thank you. And at this time, I would like to nominate my colleague, Councilmember Andrea Boone, to be the vice chair of this committee. I appreciate that. And so I would like to just see if there's any more other nominations for the position.
Second.
So there's a second by Dozier, but I think we just go off.
Mr. Chair, will be an electronic vote.
Okay, so we'll do electronic vote. So. Please open that vote, Mr. Johnson.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. Councilmember Andrea Boone has been elected as vice chair of City Utilities Committee.
Thank you, Councilmember Boone. So you all have received the 2022 goals and objectives from last year. You received that by email. And so they've all been distributed to the members. And so at this time, we'll set the date of January the 20th, that Friday, where we all should be prepared to review and adopt those goals and objectives. So you all have those with you. And by that time, I look forward to working with you all to make sure that we get a great list of goals and objectives for the year of 2023 as we move forward. At this time, we'll open it up for public comment. So, Mr. Johnson, I'm going to see if I can see who our speakers are for today. Looks like we have 3 speakers. We'll start with Don Thomas. Mr. Thomas, if you're here. Good.
Okay, grace and peace. How is everyone doing? I'm just doing a follow-up from the end of last year. I came in concerning being involved with the PEG program that they have here, the community television program. So I'm just doing a follow-up and an update, if I may. Just this past Sunday, I was able to broadcast out of the station with the communities I'm previously from, and showing it as a resume. We were able to broadcast to over 80 million viewers, getting the different communities that I've come from, the different politicians, the different churches, the different community organizations that I've been involved with, all to patch in all at one time. And we did that, and it was very successful. So I have that that broadcast that I would like to present to the board. I think Mr. Jason, my last night I spoke with the president and Mr. Jason, and it was some time for you to get in position, but I would like to know what will be the next things to get involved with the community access program TV.
All right, thank you for your comment. I'm sure that you have contact information for all of us on the committee, and you can please send that information.
Just Jason. Sure. Absolutely. Grace and peace. Appreciate it.
All right. Next up, we have Brother Anthony Muhammad.
I am that I am, a niggas, kings of kings, committed, indigenous, antiquity, spiritual being. I command the ancestor, I command antiquity, I command the dark matter, mama of the cosmos, to teach the soulful energy unto the first royal families of the earth. I command the father of the earth to teach the spiritual energies to the men, to the original men of the earth, to let them have their mental thoughts to be made into physical manifestation. And I command the daughters of the earth, the dark matter daughters of the earth, feminine energy, to become the most highest character and the most highest valuation for the benefit of the children, to have access to the Mount Out principle and laws of the earth. I command the sun, S-U-N, to teach the original people the power to create. I'm concerned, as we know, in a few days we'll be celebrating here in Atlanta, the capital city of Georgia, Mr. Winston, the new chairman of this committee, and your co-chairman, Ms. Andrea Boone. What are we going to do about the people living on the street? Dan and Ringlock, red hot city, housing, race, and exclusion in the 21st century. Listen what he said. The red hot city, housing, race. What is a race? Somebody running on a race? No, he's talking about the identification of dark matter people that look like you, Mr. Winston. What are we going to do about the people living on the street? I was talking to one of your representatives of Watershed. We have heat coming out of the sidewalks, ventilation. People laying on the street as I'm walking down here from Peachtree Road. Now, how would Martin Luther King represent that today? How would the Southern Christian leadership that walk with him today? To have you all here in the 21st century, what are you going to do? Mr. Dozier, you represent community development, and I'll be over there to talk to you about that. But here today, what is it that you can do? We have principles of the law representing the feminine energy, Ms. Boone. We're supposed to teach the children how to love the rules and laws of nature, but if we're not going to be of their highest character, the highest valuation for the forest and the source to be one with 360 degrees. We represent 360 degrees, make it whole, the polarity, the duality. And I'm saying you gave me 30 seconds. I appreciate that. But we used to come down here, Mr. Winston, and we had the opportunity to talk with these members of the different departments. We had a couple of minutes to ask questions. But no, you want me to come in and run my 3 minutes and get that up out of here. I think that's unfair, young man. First time I heard you talk as much since you've been here, since I came here and listened, you've been appointed. Congratulations. But at least you're going to speak up for the ones that look like you on the street. That's my concern. Ma'at, Mesrat, Hotel. Ashay, and Ashay. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Brother Muhammad. I want to say that we've been joined by Councilmember Antonio Lewis. Next up, we have Adrian Coleman.
Good morning. Congratulations, Councilman Winston, Councilman Dozier. It's a pleasure to see you on Utilities. My name is Adrian Coleman Tyler, and I'm here today to speak about public access television. It's ironic to hear the young man speak about his questions about community access. I'm here today as you begin to set goals and objectives for the Utilities Committee, understanding that the cable franchise agreement, as well as public educational and government access channels, are under the purview of this committee. The contract that you currently have with People TV will end and terminate on June 5th, 2023. I've not heard from the mayor's office or from City Council in terms of what your plans are in terms of the future of public access. The Dickens administration decided to terminate any forward action that the Bottoms administration had initiated towards revitalizing People TV and public access for the city of Atlanta. I'm concerned that the board of People TV has not met for the past year. Their last board meeting was January of 2022. The contract with People TV says that city utilities, that People TV is supposed to provide a quarterly update to People TV. The last one that the Utilities Committee had was October 2021, when Natalie Archibong was chair. There was not one quarterly presentation from that organization to this committee. So as you set your objectives, I hope that you will prioritize, number one, public access television, a vital and crucial communications. It's about education. And I think that what strikes me is that the city of Atlanta instituted public access around the same time as the MPU system, because they understood that it is a vital communications and education institution for our city. Ms. Boone and others always point to, which rightly so, the historic nature and importance of this institution to our community. However, in 2000, the 1980s, 90s, and in early 2000s, the budget for People TV was $500,000 adjusted annually for inflation. They had a staff of 10 or so people. They had capitalization budget. This past year, the City of Atlanta has received over $5 million in cable franchise fees, not paid by Comcast, but by cable
30
subscribers.
seconds.
Cable subscribers. Understanding that the City of Atlanta thought that 15% of every dollar paid by cable subscribers should go towards funding the public access channel. John Lewis, who we always tout, said that it was a public trust, that People's Channel was a public trust that they invested in. So as you set your goals and objectives, I hope that you will also prioritize, number one, the public access channel and the cable franchise agreement. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Coleman, and thank you to our other speakers as well. At this time, we will sound the items for first reading. Mr. Johnson, if you can handle that. Thank you.
Item number 1, 2030-1017, an ordinance by City Utilities Committee authorizing Chief Financial Officer to amend the FY 2023 Water and Wastewater Renewal and Extension Fund budget in the amount of $3,689,092.00 to transfer funds from watershed reserves for appropriations and add funds to the Greens Ferry floodplain and stream restoration project and for other purposes. Item number 2, 2030-1018, an ordinance by City Utilities Committee authorizing the Commissioner of the Department of Watershed Management or her designee to execute a consent order with the Environmental Protection Division, Department of Natural Resources of the State of Georgia, retroactively effective on September 30th, 2022, and to authorize payment pursuant to the consent order in the amount of $5,634.59 to resolve permit compliance violations, including unpermitted discharges, affluent permit limit exceedances, and major spills from July 2021 through June 2022, and for other purposes.
Thank you. Now we'll have ordinances for second reading. Mr. Johnson, can you start with item number 3?
Item number 3, 2020-1901, an ordinance by City Utilities Committee authorizing Chief Financial Officer to amend the FY 2023 Water and Wastewater Renewal and Extension Fund budget in the amount of $2,500,000.00 to transfer funds from watershed reserves for appropriations and add funds to the CIP Facility, Structural, and Site Improvements Project and for other purposes.
Thank you. Do we have Mr. Hart here to speak today? Thank you. Start by announcing your name and speaking to this item.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Chairman Winston and council members. My name is Director Harold Hart with Office of Facilities and Management with Department of Watershed. The purpose of this legislation is to fund facility CIP, structural and site improvements. The scope of the facility CIP project, can you hear me? Okay. The scope of the facility CIP project addresses the areas of elevator modernization and repairs, gates and gate operator repair, and replacement, major roof repairs and replacement, HVAC replacement and control upgrades, and electrical lighting upgrades. This funding would also address the previous mentioned needs at the following DWM locations, which is in Clayton, Utoy Creek, Chattahoochee Plant, Hemp Hill, Inglewood, Bellwood Quarry, and South River. This funding will also allow Office of Facilities Management to fund 2 projects at the 14th Street facility, which are repairs to address roof leaks causing office employees to be relocated, and the Stonewall renovation, which is restroom renovation to restore functioning restroom facilities and terminate leasing of current restroom trailers. Not really sure if I'm causing this to go in and out, but I apologize for that.
Thank you. I do want to note that we've been joined by Councilmember Howard Shook. Do any of my colleagues have any questions? Got a move by Councilmember Shook, second by Hillis. Can you please open that vote, Mr. Johnson?
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Item is favorable with 6 yeas, 0 nays. We'll now move on to items number 4 and 5 that we'll take as a block unless my colleagues have any objections. Okay.
Item number 4, 22-01902, an ordinance by City Utilities Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the FY 2023 Water and Wastewater Renewal and Extension Fund budget in the amount of $7,500,000.00 to transfer funds from watershed reserves for appropriations and add funds to the Stormwater Annual Contract Project and for other purposes. Item number 5, 22-01903, an ordinance by City Utilities Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the FY 2023 Water and Wastewater Renewal and Extension Fund budget in the amount of $2 million.00 to transfer funds from watershed reserves for appropriations and add funds to the Lakewood Park Partnership Project and for other purposes.
Thank you. Good to see you today. Can you please state your name for the viewing audience?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the council. My name is Alex Mohajer. I'm the Deputy Commissioner, Office of the Watershed Protection. Item number 4, in reference to annual contract, stormwater annual construction contracts are utilized to enhance functions of the stormwater collection system. The scope includes construction of both gray and green infrastructure system, cleaning, inspection, and repair of existing systems. The overall objective is to prevent water ponding and street flooding. The purpose is to provide continuity of services while a new annual contract for stormwater is solicited. This is a request to extend the terms of the existing agreement monthly from February 6, 2023, for a period of not to exceed 6 months, with the final expiration date of August 7, 2023. There will be no changes to the contract value. The funding is to utilize FY 2023 Water and Wastewater Renewal and Extension Fund 5052 in the amount of $7,500,000. This is to transfer funds from watershed reserves to the stormwater annual contract budget. Also, this is supported by the municipal option sales tax most funded.
Thank you. I'll now open it up for comments from my colleagues. Councilmember Lewis.
This is part of why I like the mayor's office when they come in with money that they found, because Councilmember Winston and Councilmember Dozier, I think this is going to help us a lot. We have a lot of flooding issues in our area. And I just want to be the first person to say I move approval.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, we've got a motion by Councilmember Lewis, second by Boone. Can you please open the vote?
The vote is open. Vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. These items are favorable.
Thank you.
Takes us to item number 6,
We'll move on to item number 6.
22-01907, an ordinance by City Utilities Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the FY 2023 Series 2021 Water and Wastewater Commercial Paper Notes budget in the amount of $2 million.00 to transfer funds from the Series 2021 Water and Wastewater Commercial Paper Notes for appropriation to add funds to the Vehicle and Heavy Equipment Project and for other purposes.
Morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Chairman Winston and council members. I am Director Robert Horton for the Office of Asset and Accountability Management in the Department of Watershed Management. The purpose of this legislation is to allocate the amount of $2 million to fund the Vehicle and Heavy Equipment Replacement Program. The funds will be utilized to continue replacing vehicles and equipment within Department of Watershed that are past their life cycle. The Vehicle and Heavy Equipment Replacement Project is in its 7th year, and the project is rapidly reducing the number of outdated vehicles within Watershed. Department of Watershed Management vehicles that are outside the normal operational life cycle have been reduced from 54% to 20% since the inception of this program. Modernizing Department of Watershed Management fleet will help minimize downtime, operating costs, and the cost of repairs. And my last point is to continue the acquisition of electric and alternative fuel vehicles to achieve the City of Atlanta's goal of 40% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by the year 2030.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Second. Motion by Hillis, second by Lewis. Can you please open the vote, Mr. Johnson?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. This takes us to Section J, resolutions. Item number 723R3009, a resolution by City Utilities Committee to authorize payment of the stipulated penalty imposed by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and the Environmental Protection Division of the Department of Natural Resources of the State of Georgia in the amount of $8,500.00 for failure to maintain adequate operational standards due to fecal chloroform exceedance at the Clear Creek Combined Sewage Control Facility on July 30th, 2022, pursuant to the CSO consent decree. Civil action file numbers listed. Payment will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Thank you. Welcome back.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, council members. Alex Mohajer, Office of the Watershed Protection. This is to request funds in an amount of $8,500 for stipulated penalties for violation of CSO Consent Decree Section 11D1, failure to maintain adequate operational standards. On July 30, 2022, the fecal coliform concentration in the first flush grab sample collected at the Clear Creek Combined Sewage Control Facility, NPDES GA 0038644, was found to be 56,000 colony forming units per 100 milliliters, which exceeded the seasonally adjusted daily maximum allowable permit effluent limit of 2,000 CFU per 100 milliliters. The sampling pump malfunctioned. Due to the pump being clogged, the operator attempted multiple times to get a sample, but was unsuccessful. The 50-minute limit to collect the fecal sample was close to expiring. Therefore, the operator had to manually collect the fecal sample. The sample was collected according to the approved sampling and monitoring plan for the West Area Combined Sewer System Control Facilities, May 3rd, 2016. The cause of the violation was most likely insufficient disinfections. However, it could have been from limited detention time and heavy rainfall of 3.33 inches in the Clear Creek Basin between the hours of 1 p.m. and 8 p.m. The peak flow around 5 p.m. was 1.01 million gallons per day, with a total flow of 4.1 mg during the discharge event at Clear Creek at between 4:40 p.m. and 7:40 p.m. To resolve this issue, a new sampling pump with a self-backflushing system will be installed to keep the sample unclogged. This pump has been ordered. The funding utilization is from Consent Decree Water and Wastewater Revenue Fund 170210 and penalties and 10,000 sanitary administration.
Thank you. I'll now open it up for comments. Councilmember Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the description of what happened. Recognize I'm a newer member of this committee, so my questions are largely exploratory in nature because I would love to learn more about how this process typically works. I'm assuming because we're under a consent decree, we are regularly inspected by either the Department of Natural Resources or the EPA. How often are we running into situations to where we are found in violation? And I know $8,500 isn't the most amount of money, but I imagine if there's other issues in other parts of the city and it compounds and that creates a fiduciary challenge for the city, but just would love to learn more about I get what happened in this particular instance, but want to learn more about the larger context in which these inspections are occurring.
Morning, Council Member. This type of problem doesn't happen too often, and I will turn it to our Commissioner.
Good morning, Councilman Dozier. I'm Akita Browning, Commissioner for Department of Watershed Management. To Deputy Commissioner Mohajer's point, it does not happen that often. There's a good degree of preparedness that the facilities take in the event we're going to have wet weather events. And so in this event, unfortunately, the pump clogged, and so we were forced to take a grab sample, which probably had a degree of saturation there. And so, again, we've got a new pump that's been ordered. It'll be installed as quickly as we receive it. But no, we don't run into those types of mechanical malfunctions often. But when we do, we have we have to do our due diligence and make sure we stay in compliance and report accordingly.
And when we do run into other mechanical issues sporadically, but when we do have that happen, does that typically result in a inspection of fine like this, or is it just a circumstance they happen to be inspecting while this malfunction was occurring, and that's what led to the fine?
We have staff on site at those remote facilities during wet weather events. So if, we have a standard protocol that we follow. In the event of this type of situation, we'll do the grab sample. If it's out of range, we're required to report, and there's a penalty that's associated with us exceeding the required standard.
Thank you. I yield.
Any other comments from my colleagues? So we do have a mover and a second. I just wanted to add, so just for my clarification, so there was a degree of self-policing here where we found this issue first and self-reported. Is that the case?
Yes, we always self-report. It's a requirement.
Okay, and then my other question was around the pump. You said you had to order the pump. Are we keeping these pumps and these supplies, in stock so that, in case we run into these issues, we're able to get those back up and running pretty quickly?
I'll have to defer to facilities management. Do we typically keep those pumps on stock?
Are some as big as, this building that are about $2 million, and no, we don't keep those. Smaller ones we do.
Okay. Thank you. Got a second by, I think it was Shook. Second, move for approval by Shook and second by Hillis. So please open that vote, Mr. Johnson.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Item number 823R3010, a resolution by City Utilities Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute the Fourth Amendment to Agreement EAS 1210103, emergency right-of-way maintenance with Russell Landscape LLC on behalf of the Department of Public Works to add funding for continued right-of-way services in the amount not to exceed $750,000.00. All contract work will be charged to and paid from various fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Good morning, Chairman Winston, and Happy New Year, committee members. This request initially came before the committee back in October as an emergency request due to some concerns of this body in regards to the consistency of work performed, specifically by Russell Landscaping and Ed Castro Landscape. The committee decided to cut the funding in half until the performance of work improved and the consistency also improved. I'm proud to report that since that time, we have had ongoing inspections with Russell Landscaping. During the month of December, we've inspected approximately 110 miles of right-of-way. 8 out of 10 inspections that were performed received a passing score. Please keep in mind that we are establishing criteria based upon the contractual agreement, and Russell has been very agreeable to meet that standard. So we are coming back before this body to request the additional $750K as we need to perform off-cycle maintenance that is very difficult to perform during the summer months. And we're open to any questions that you may have in regarding the performance of Russell Landscaping this morning.
Thank you, Commissioner Wiggins. I'm going to open it up for comments, starting with Councilmember Lewis.
Commissioner Wiggins, I appreciate you for stretching yourself in this process too. I know when you talked about us wanting to split the money in half, it was just basically I felt embarrassed to actually go to the barbershop. I talked about it in the council meeting. I will let you know I am extremely impressed. I'm extremely impressed. I think that the attention that you've been giving District 12 over the past 2-3 months has been a light years ahead of where we were. I want to see some designs now. I want to see can you do some artwork on some of my right-of-ways now? So I appreciate where we are, and I can't wait to see where we go after this.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilmember Lewis.
Move approval.
Got a move by Councilmember Lewis, second by Hillis. I'm going to ask Councilmember Hillis for his comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Commissioner Wiggins. I went out with Russell after this was before the committee last, and it got reduced, kind of separated out from 1.5 to 750,000, and gave them not too long of a list, 5 or 6 trouble spots across the district that needed, as you mentioned, what's considered off-cycle maintenance, streets, and they started off well, but then kind of dwindled off. Is this authorization going to allow them to get back on track and perform more work for the city, particularly off-cycle maintenance?
Yes, Councilmember Hillis, that is correct. Not only will it allow them to get back on track, members of our key leadership team will actually go out to inspect or to evaluate the additional work orders requested by Russell Landscaping, just to make sure that their priorities match the city's priorities as well. So the $750K is certainly needed to perform that off-cycle maintenance.
And give us an update on that internal team you mentioned about, I guess, auditing their work. Have we got that fully built up yet? How many staff members are assigned to that unit?
So currently we have 2 QA/QC officers. Each of the 2 officers are assigned to, one is assigned to Russell and the other is assigned to Ed Castro Landscaping. Again, Russell has passed with glowing numbers, 8 out of 10 of the inspections. I think the initial inspections that they did not necessarily pass were during the onset of the program, and so they are doing well now.
All right, and unrelated to this paper and this contractor, but you did mention issues with the other contractor, Ed Castro Landscaping. Where are they at in their funding? Are they performing off-cycle maintenance for the city? What are they doing right now?
So I believe that Ed Castro has requested additional funding for off-cycle maintenance. However, we are still working with Ed Castro for them to be able to perform work according to the city's standards. As you know, we've established a vendor scorecard that rates the vendors and their performance. We're still working with Ed Castro to get them to where we would really like them to be before we add on additional off-cycle maintenance for that group.
Discuss that more when we get papers for Ed Castro Landscaping. But thank you for the updates.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I just had one other question. So, obviously we've seen, it sounds like we've seen an improvement in the quality of work from Russell, and this satisfies the remaining portion of the funds that was needed for this contract. So at what point do we make a decision if we're going to move forward with this, continuing after this contract is over? And do you all have a trigger date to kind of, come up with a plan of action in case it's not something we want to move forward with?
Yes, sir. So we're looking at this, again, as I mentioned a little bit before last year, holistically. As we perform our cost and efficiency study, we're actually looking at the benefit of using contractors on certain areas of the right-of-way. The bulk of the work is still performed by our full-time city employees. And so based on the results of that cost and efficiency study, the initial phase, we hope to be prepared to make that decision prior to the end of this summer season.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? We had a mover by Councilmember Lewis and a second by Councilmember Hillis. Can you please open that vote, Mr. Johnson?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable.
Thank you.
Takes us to item number 9, 23.
Sorry, Mr. Johnson. We do have one other question from Councilmember.
Commissioner, while you're up here, if my inbox is any indication, there seems to be an uptick in missed sanitation collections. I've heard of multiple assertions of, back-to-back pickups being missed. Are you observing anything like that?
So, Councilmember Shook, I have not heard that. We have put in place a new data analytics team, and we have not received any data that indicates that there has been an uptick in complaints. Actually, the numbers that we have seen is shown that there has been a reduction. However, there may be an issue with a certain service area that has been identified. We've had issues with certain service areas, particularly when we have drivers that are out and we have replacement drivers that aren't as familiar with certain routes. But across the enterprise, we have actually had a reduction of missed collection complaints.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Can you please sound item number 9, please?
Item number 9, 23R3078, a resolution by City Utilities Committee authorizing the mayor as designee to execute the Fifth Amendment to Agreement FC 9838, Program Management Services with Stantec Joint Venture for Program Management Services on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management to extend the term of the agreement on a month-to-month basis for a period not to exceed 3 months effective February 1st, 2023 through April 30th, 2023, and to add funds in the amount not to exceed $2,100,000.0. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Chairperson Winston, Vice Chair Boone, and members of the City Utilities Committee. My name is Kathy Martin, and I am the Deputy Commissioner of Administration for the Department of Watershed Management. The Program Management Services Team that we affectionately call the PMST, provided by Stantec SG Joint Venture on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management, provides on an as-needed basis professional program management services to assist the Department of Watershed Management with the capital improvement program, addressing consent decree regulatory requirements through the Clean Water Atlanta program and other departmental strategic initiatives. Resolution 23R3078 is to request an additional 3 months to the current Program Management Services Team contract. During the last CUC, I presented and the committee approved the budget amendment for funding to be applied to this extension. The legislation before you is to authorize the extension through April 30th, when we expect that the new solicitation, with proposals that are due on January 31st, will have completed the legislative and procurement processes, including being fully executed and a notice to proceed provided to the most responsive and responsible proponent. During the current extension, the PMST continually performs in an above satisfactory manner, and your approval to exercise this Fifth Amendment that extends the extension to April 30th is requested. Subject to your questions, this concludes my briefing on this topic.
Thank you. Any comments from my colleagues? Councilmember Shook.
Hey, Ms. Martin, so refresh us as to kind of where we are with this process here and the extra needed time.
So this is the end, obviously, of the FC 9838 contract. We do have a solicitation that's currently in the Department of Procurement that's being advertised. The due date is January 31st of this month. So we go through a procurement process, including the negotiations and the selection and the legislative process. So we hope that that happens within the next 90 days so that we don't have to come forward to you for yet another extension, and that we will have a new approved contractor on board for these services going forward.
All right, but why has this lagged, though? I mean, this is arguably the most important contract the city has with any vendor.
It has, and it is. And we submitted the request. We informed the Department of Procurement early on in 2022 that this contract was going to require a new solicitation. We put forward the paperwork to them, and the extension to the due date was made by an addenda a few weeks ago. And we expect that we have no more extensions and that we will have several proponents to review when the solicitations are due on the 31st of January.
Thank you, Mr. Shook. Councilmember Lewis.
I think you kind of answered it when you said no more extensions, because I know this is the city of Atlanta, and we thinking about 90 days. I can see in 90 days you come in and ask for another 90 days. So when you just said no more extensions, are you
Well, I wish I had a crystal ball, Councilmember
want you to
Lewis.
do that.
But, the amendment number 4 extended it through the end of this month, which we presented 3 months ago. And at that time, we were preparing the solicitation to the Department of Procurement. We have an extension now on that particular solicitation, so we want to make sure, since we're mandated by our consent decree to have this program in place, that we cover that period. And I think with the due date of January 31st, that we should be able to review all the proponents, do any negotiations, bring back the legislation to you for approval, get it through the signature process, and get an executed contract within the next 90 days.
Ms. Browning, everyone you've sent up have been so ready, so prepared. I'm wondering, how do they choose who comes up for what? And they're so informative about it. But I appreciate you. I just didn't want you to tie yourself to, because this is still the city of Atlanta. We do know processes may take a little longer than 90 days. So but I move approval.
Got to move for approval by Lewis, second by Boone. Councilmember Hillis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question not specifically to this legislation, but to the new contract that'll be hopefully awarded by this end date. It's going to be a single awardee, or will there be multiple awardees like the A&E contracts?
Yeah, the program management services team is typically a single contract.
Any other comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, we had a move for approval by Councilmember Lewis, second by Boone. Can you please open the vote, Mr. Johnson?
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. And Mr. Chair, that concludes our legislative items for today.
Thank you. So efficiency is the word of the year for this committee. So I'm excited that, we're moving along pretty quickly on day one. But any other comments or parting words from my colleagues today?
Yes, I would like to commend the Department of Watershed Management. During the cold snap, they really stood up to all of the cities that we provide water to, from Fairburn, Georgia, College Park. I had no idea that this department supplied water to all of those cities. So when we began to get calls from so many different elected officials, you all really made the city of Atlanta look really, really good. Commissioner Browning, Mr. Wells, Mr. Arthur Cabell, and Mr. Satterwhite, they are really to be commended. You all were under a tremendous amount of stress. So thank you on behalf of the citizens of Atlanta for stepping up, making the city of Atlanta. We were very, very well prepared for that. And on another note, the float program has just been a tremendous success. Do we have any information on that? Has that ended, or where are we on that float program? So many citizens were assisted over the Christmas holiday.
Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me? I'm Jonathan Williams, Deputy Commissioner of Financial Administration. The program ended on the 31st, with the exception of folks who may have had appointments and couldn't get in to see us. We're still available to them. We had 2,500 people participate in the plan, and it's been very well received. Any other questions specific to float?
Councilmember Lewis.
Is there any kind of way we can extend it? And the reason why I ask that is because, to a second on what Councilmember Boone said about like pipes bursting all over our city of Atlanta, a lot of folks are having real water issues right here, right now. I know one day I rode by the Cleveland Avenue Library on like the last day, and the line was out of the library because people were trying to sign up for the float program. Is there any kind of way we can do a 30-day, a 90, I like 90 days. It seems like that's the theme for the day. If we can look at a 90-day extension, because I think when you look at the last 3 weeks in the city of Atlanta when pipes bursting, we had all over the city. Some people are still having water leaks right now because they couldn't afford to get their pipes fixed. And I know them. And so is there any kind of way we can keep that theme of 90 days going? And maybe when you come back up and we extend that we do that extension again for 90 more days, God willing, we do the same thing for folks in Atlanta who might need to float some money again.
Well, we have a considerable amount of capacity to deal with issues like burst pipes that are already in our NOVA program. The float was specific to folks who had long-term large debt. And so there were some specific things that we provided them. We still have payment plans. We still have LIWOP dollars. We still have expanded caring that provides help and assistance in this area.
I just like that float program.
That is not.
I like the float one. I'm very specific because that line, I don't have lines going out the library for nothing else but the float program.
So I will say I had a very good conversation with with Commissioner Browning about where we are with the program. Also, as it pertains to, I know you all have seen the news where we've got 22,000 people that have been flagged as having have not been paid their accounts that are probably looking at disconnection. And so I know that you talked about the compassion and empathy and the process that watershed management is going to take in terms of looking at the people and identifying the ones that may still need to go through the float program. And I think it's important to just have that conversation. If you could give us some more context, at least for this body, as we go out and talk to our constituents.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that question and continued support for watershed management in our daily business. So the float program, it was in effect for 6 months. Initially, it was going to be just through the summer months, and we extended it through the end of the year. And it's been a tremendous program. It's been very successful. To D.C. Williams' point, we received over 2,500 citizens that benefited from the program. Within the last 2 weeks of December, we saw a huge influx of about 500 customers that were provided assistance during that time. So a huge uptick at the end of the year, obviously, because the program is coming to an end. But to that end, our ability for compassion and support to our customers are the most important to us. And so we want to make sure we made sure that we had all of those programs and assistance in place before we move forward very methodically to get to a point of wanting to institute shutoffs. To that point, we do have 22,000+ accounts that are pending potential disconnection. We will continue to exercise empathy and support to our customers, extending any and all programs and services that we have in our toolbox to support them. And there's a very careful process that ensues before we get to a point of having to disconnect. So, with the remaining 22,000, we're going to tackle those over the next several months. Obviously, we can't disconnect 22,000 in the month of January. So it's going to have to happen over the next several months. And again, with the process, we're going to make sure that we're reaching out to those customers so that they're aware and engaging them and letting them know what programs we have in place that we're here to support with whatever we've got, and just working to get as many of those accounts into compliance.
Thank you for that. And just to be clear, I think it's important to note that, what you're saying is that the shutoff is the last resort.
That's the last resort.
At the most, you were trying to contact those individuals who have delinquent accounts and doing everything in your power to try to get them, caught up as much as possible or get them on a program that's similar to the float.
Absolutely.
And I think that's important to note because, I think we've all read in the news that it seemed like, on January the 2nd, 22,000 people were going to have their water cut off, and that's not the case. The case is that, watershed management is working to help those individuals who have delinquent accounts. And so I appreciate you and your department doing everything you can to work with individuals as we move forward. And so we don't have any more other questions or comments from my colleagues. Sorry, Councilmember Hillis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staying on the subject, multiple subjects, I guess I'll start with the latest, the water delinquent accounts. We were told at least some of the shutoffs were going to start the first of the year. So where are we with that? Because we can only, continue to be a charity for so long. It's been 12-plus years since we've executed on this. And if you look at our goals and objectives, and what we've been told in previous quarterly updates, our water lines are currently on a 200-year replacement cycle. That's unsustainable and probably resulted in, a water pipe can freeze whether it's new or old, but certainly as it ages, those breaks increase, and that's why we were where we were around Christmas. So where are we at with cutoffs, whether it's residential or multifamily over the commercial?
So I think I may have covered several quarters ago, we've been disconnecting for commercial accounts for almost 2 years. We started with those accounts, so those accounts are progressing, continuing to engage those customers and have fruitful conversations with them and working to get their accounts into compliance. With regard to the residential accounts, we did indicate we're going to start January 2nd. We had to hit a little bit of a pause because of the influx of the 500 that came into the float program the last 2 weeks of December. So we needed to recalibrate the list. And so we've been working last week pretty diligently to synthesize, to make sure those accounts are allotted for or noted as being pending adjustments. And so we'll be working to get the list tidied up. We'll need to do some additional public outreach to customers. We definitely want to make sure that they understand what resources and programs are available to them. And so some of the print media that you'll see come out, we have the standard door hangers that we put out. We want to make sure we put the right information on there for them so they're aware. This week we're going to work to focus on some of the public outreach and just want to make sure that customers are aware of the programs and the resources that are available. And then at the same time, we're finalizing our January list.
And on the list of delinquent accounts, as was mentioned, this goes back 12-plus years. Have we went through the list yet and written off everything past a certain date? Because those are
Yep, that's upcoming. You will
legally
be,
uncollectible.
yep, you'll be seeing a paper legislation come forth for us to write off those accounts that are uncollectible and aged.
It has or it will be?
Will be.
Okay.
Will be. It'll be upcoming.
And we know how much that is?
Active accounts, it's a little over 9 million. For inactive accounts, it's about 9.2 million. And these are things.
9 and 9.2?
9.5 and 9.2. And these are accounts that are statutorily past the point that we can do anything. They should have been written off before. And we'll work backward from that to see what collectability is and whether liens need to be addressed. So we've got the dollar amount. We're just seeking approval for that at this point.
All right. Secondly, I want to echo Councilmember Boone's comments about the response of Watershed during the deep freeze. Could you just give us kind of a synopsis of how bad it was, how many calls you all responded to, and the work that your team did?
If I recall, as far as main breaks within our purview, we had about 60 plus main breaks. We utilized in-house forces as well as contractor resources to respond as quickly as we could to address those main breaks. We did receive a significant amount of calls from customers across the city, as well as some of our other customers, wholesale and interjurisdictional customers, and worked to respond to them just as quickly as well. The bulk of the issues that we saw were on the private side. There were either service lines that were frozen or there were breaks. Nonetheless, we responded and were able to identify the root cause. And so if it was on the private side, we just notified the customer that they needed to retain a plumber. But yeah, the bulk of the issues that we saw primarily were on the private side.
2 more things related to That event, number one, I know, this is obviously an emergency situation. As you mentioned, we were using contractors and, your teams were at full blast 24/7. I would just ask that all of the breaks be revisited, because I know there are some in my district where restoration hasn't happened yet. And there's some quite deep, quote-unquote, potholes that could cause the city some liability. So just ask that those be revisited and repaired as soon as possible, as resources allow. Two, one of the biggest kind of ideas or requests I got from constituents is Watershed could look into updating their notification systems. We get emails, but even those, at least in my experience, they're way after an area has been out of water. They're not real time. We don't get, unless we ask for one, we don't get ETAs where, or other public utilities. You can go on the Georgia Power site and see what area is out of power and that ETA, or if it's still being assessed. And I know we have a very capable GIS team and want to see about Watershed looking into that, if we could update our software and have some kind of online system that notifies people, like, hey, we're going to, either if it's proactive or reactive, like we're going to be in this area on this date, or there's been a reported water main break in this area, we're assessing the situation, or we've assessed the situation, and it's going to be 4 hours until water is restored, because I had some areas of some neighborhoods out of water for 2 to 3 days. And that was one of the requests that came from constituents, is to get this information available online.
Absolutely. It's something that we've been looking at to expand our toolbox as far as communications, even thinking about text messages. But to your point, we'd want to look to have some type of dynamic online tool where customers can go online and be able to see the status of their service requests, and utilize any and all tools, media as well, to make sure we're keeping customers abreast of the status of repairs, not just during inclement emergency situations, but any normal run-of-the-day critical or priorities that come about.
And to be completely clear, that's not just a Watershed issue. I think you all know I'm a map guru, and I think that all city departments across our city need to, come into the 21st century and have some interactive maps available to people to find out, about city services and what the status are. We don't even, as council members, get notified from DOT of road closures anymore. So, there's a need across all of our departments to more resources on maps. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hillis. Councilmember Lewis.
Two quick things. The first thing is to Commissioner Browning. The water main break on Cleveland Avenue between Brown Mill Road and Altamont Drive, do we have a timetable on that?
I will get you an update on that location. I'm familiar with it. We utilize a third-party contractor for that location, so I will get you an update before the close of the day.
I appreciate you for whatever you're doing over there. I would like a time frame, or like ETA when you're gonna finish.
Absolutely.
Lastly, I want to commend the guy who I got elected with in a runoff, my neighbor to my right, Councilmember Jason Winston, on a first meeting today. Congratulations, Chair. Congratulations, my brother.
Thank you. Thank you all, and I appreciate you all kind of having this impromptu conversation. I think it was much needed, especially given the concerns of everything that happened towards the end of the year, and then also as we continue to talk about, how we can help those who have delinquent accounts when that affect Department of Watershed Management. So thank you for that. Thank you for colleagues for indulging that conversation. And if we don't have anything else, we are adjourned for today. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
He blushing, y'all.